Hi, this is Sean with Nowhere Games. I want to show you how I create 2D animations using 3D models. Drawing has always been a passion of mine, but I struggle with animation. I don't have the budget for a subscription-based animation software, and I need to invest more time learning rigging, weight painting, and anatomy. If you can relate to these animation struggles, this video may be for you. If you are not interested in learning how to make video games, stick around anyway. You may get a kick out of my amateur animations. I will be using the software shown in the splash image below. You can follow along using your own software, but these are the applications I have experience with. Each application will work differently, but the principles are the same. Okay, so the first thing I need is a 3D model. There are plenty of websites that offer free 3D models, but if you're using a model in a professional project, make sure you note the licensing information to avoid any legal issues. I found this fun plague doctor on the Unity Asset Store. I will need to import the model into my project before I can access it. Many of the files that come with this asset are not necessary, so I will not import them into my project. I am primarily looking for the mesh, but I will keep the materials and textures because this will save me from creating my own. You can create your own model if you have the talent, but I will be using an asset to speed up the process. Feel free to skip to step 3 if you create your own model because you shouldn't have to take extra steps to prep the model for the animation. Now that I have my model, I need to import that file into Blender. I'm looking for a .fbx or .obj file. I am also going to delete the rig and vertex data because I will recreate this in a later step. The object rotation was lost when I deleted the rig, so I'm going to rotate the model 90 degrees about the x-axis so the orientation is correct when I rig and animate it. I need to export the model to a temporary folder where I can access it later. I like to export as a .obj because I don't need all the additional data that comes with an FBX file. And I have not been able to get FBX files to work in Mixamo, which I will be using to rig and animate the model. So now I need to find that OBJ file and drag it into Mixamo. This is not the best model for Mixamo because the cloak on this plague doctor makes it difficult for the algorithm to identify where to put the bones. But it works for demonstration purposes. Now that Mixamo has rigged the model, I will find a basic walk animation from the Mixamo catalog. I'm going to download this walk animation. I need to check with skin so the mesh comes with the rig. With the model rigged and animated, I need to import the new FBX file into Blender. I can delete the old model because the new FBX file came with its own mesh. In the last step, if I had not selected the with skin option, I would need to reparent the skeleton to the model and create new vertex data. Now that the new model is in Blender, I will create a material using the texture that came with the Unity asset. The model should still contain mesh data, so I won't need to unwrap it. I will click on this red globe icon to open the model's material information. From here, I am going to change the base color to an image texture and select the texture that came with the Unity asset. I could change the other maps in the same way if the asset included these. I could paint onto this texture or create a texture from scratch, but this is a different skill that requires its own tutorial. Now that my model is rigged and animated with a new material, I can set up the lighting, camera, and configure the output information. I'm trying to create a naturally lit look, because I will be using an unlit sprite in Unity. I would need to create a normal map and a shader for the sprite to work correctly with Unity's dynamic lighting system. This character is stylized, so I can get away with faking the lighting here in Blender. I am trying to highlight the character's important features without washing out the shadows. This is not perfect, but it's good enough for now. You can take as much time as you like to get the look that you want. I need to set up my camera and output settings. If I press 0 on the numpad, I will turn on camera view and center my character in the viewport. I want to give the character enough space so I don't lose portions of the character's body as the animation changes. I click on this camera icon to access the output settings. I do not want any perspective information for this render, so I'm going to change the camera to orthographic and set the render resolution to 1080 by 1080. You may need to adjust this to a lower resolution depending on your own project. The last thing I need to do before rendering is select an output location and name my frames to help with identification. I could export these sprites directly into Unity, but it's more efficient to package each image into a sprite sheet to save memory and keep the Unity project hierarchy uncluttered. I will be using Sprite to create a sprite sheet from the PNG files we got from Blender. Sprite isn't the best tool for this purpose because I'm using high fidelity textures, but I already have experience with Sprite, so that's the tool that I will be using. Photoshop or GIMP probably have similar capabilities, and as I was working on this video and developing my own game, I discovered a Blender plugin that allows you to create this sprite sheet directly from Blender, and this speeds up the process significantly. But for the purpose of this video, I'll show you how to do it from Sprite. I can drag all the PNGs from the temporary folder into Sprite, and Sprite knows that I want to import them as an animation. I'm going to export this animation as a sprite sheet. This will create a sprite sheet that I am going to configure in Unity. I will divide the sprite sheet into 8 columns and 4 rows to maximize the available space. My goal with this configuration is to make it easier to visualize in Unity because I will need to tell Unity how to separate the sprite sheet into individual sprites. Finally, I will export the sprite sheet directly into my Unity Assets folder. After importing the sprite sheet into Unity, I will need to adjust the sprite sheet import settings so Unity knows how to interpret the file. I will set the texture type to 2D UI and set the type to multiple. I'm going to leave every other setting the same, but these are configurable as well if you need to optimize the file. I need to click the sprite editor button to configure the sprite sheet so Unity knows how to extract the individual sprites. I will tell Unity to break up the sprite sheet by the individual sprite dimensions. These dimensions were set when I chose the render resolution from Blender. I will now click apply and Unity will extract the sprites. I will need to create a sprite renderer object or attach a sprite renderer to an object in the scene for these sprites to work as an animation in-game. I will also need to have the animation window open. I select the sprite renderer object and click Create Animation down here in the animation window. And here is the final result of the front walk animation from the Plague Doctor sprite sheet. You will have to adjust the scale depending on the sprite resolution and the needs of the game. This sprite has an additional billboard script attached to it, so it will always face the player. To finish out this video, I wanted to add a few caveats to my process. First, the sprite renderer resolution is a pivotal decision because Unity will need to render each frame of this animation, and this can become quite resource intensive if you expect to initiate draw calls for high resolution textures every tick of the game. Unity has several compression settings, but there's a limit to what your system or your player's systems can process. I'm still trying to find the balance between high fidelity and performance in my own game. So please leave in the comments below if you know of any optimization techniques to achieve high fidelity look without destroying performance. Second, this is not a tutorial on creating an entire 2D character. In this video, I demonstrated how to render sprites from a 3D model in a single direction. You will need to make sprite sheets for all necessary directions and a script that controls which directional animations play to have a fully animated character. I can make another video on this process if there is enough interest, so let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching my video. It is not easy to make YouTube content while developing a video game, but I do it because I have a story I want to share. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the story I'm trying to tell, and I hope you come back to watch more of my videos. Thanks again.